Black and white, it's been used on infinite sneakers for all of time, but on a Jordan shoe that doesn't come back quite as often and we don't see quite as often, the use of black and white still feels like a breath of fresh air. Air Jordan 14, black and white. Now this shoe is dropping on December 20th for $200 in the United States. And actually, this shoe has already been out for a while, I think, in Asia. I was in Taiwan for a 2-week vacation and I saw the shoe quite a few times and actually got them while I was there. Couldn't help myself, had to get it. And I'm always curious like how they decide which shoe to release in certain markets over another. This shoe doesn't seem like an Asia exclusive or Europe exclusive or anything like that, so don't know why the release dates are so different. I don't know if it's just an operational, logistical issue, but yeah, if you live in Asia, if you want to go to Asia, you can get the shoe. And originally when the Jordan 14s first came out in 1998, the mid version was $150 and the low version of the Jordan 14 was $130. So convert that to $2023, it's about $285 for the mid cut and $250 for the low cut. But the Jordan 14s, even though I don't like absolutely love them, there is something more significant and special about this silhouette. Michael Jordan did wear the Jordan 14s at the end of his career as a Chicago Bull. He wasn't supposed to, but he did it anyway. So it kind of signified an end of an era. The materials on the shoe, it comes with a suede base layer. And the suede on the shoe, it's nice, but it's slightly on the coarser side. So it doesn't have that very soft and smooth, plush, velvety suede that you see on other shoes. Compared this to like the New Balance 1700 Toronto, compared to like the New Balance C-Note, all have a very velvety kind of plush feel. And you'll see a Jumpman badge on the side of the shoe. That badge is inspired by a Ferrari badge. So story time, the Jordan 14 was designed by legendary designer Tinker Hatfield. He designed the Jordan 14 based on a Ferrari. At the time Michael Jordan owned a Ferrari. He probably owned many of them, but it was one Ferrari in particular. Can't remember off the top of my head which one it was. I'm a huge car guy, but the name escapes me. But he designed the shoe based on a Ferrari. So you can see the sleekness and the angles of the shoe does kind of give you that sports car feel. And on the booty of the shoe, that texture and that pattern, that is supposed to resemble the tread on a tire. Love that, love little design cues like that. Really makes the shoe much more interesting. And speaking of the Jumpman, on the Jordan 14s, there's 14 Jumpmans or Jumpmen if you total up both pairs of shoes. So 7 on each. So here's all 7 on this shoe. The badge, that's 1. The Jumpman on the bottom of the ice stays, that's 2. The insole, that's 3. Booty of the shoe, that's 4. The outsole of the shoe, that's 5. And very subtly, the lace tips. So there's 7 Jumpmen, 14 in total. And speaking of lace tips, the Jordan 14 was the first Jordan brand shoe to use these silver lace tips, which we see on a lot of shoes now, especially shoes that are going for more of like a premium vibe to it. So it started a pretty cool trend. And you'll see a lot of ventilation on the upper sole of the shoe. Now speaking of that, the Jordan 14 was one of the rare Jordan shoes. When the original colorways came out, the construction was different between different colorways. So you'll see this one has that ribbed texture on the upper sole. The other colorways had that flat, smooth texture. In terms of the aesthetics, in terms of how it looks, I don't know if I prefer one over the other. I think both look pretty good as long as the colorway looks nice. But there's something about the ribbed texture of the Jordan 14 that's just a bit more distinct. So I often associate the Jordan 14 with the ribbed texture. And moving on to the tongue is like a very unique looking tongue. It goes kind of straight up. And at the very top, you'll see Jordan very subtly in that light gray color. And then on the inside of the tongue, you'll see 14 in Roman numerals. There's a lot of ventilation on the tongue, but the one thing, if you've ever played ball in the Jordan 14s, you definitely would have noticed that the tongue moves around a lot. The Jordan 14, the black and university blue pair, that was my first Jordan shoe that I was able to play in. I was able to scrounge up enough money to buy that shoe. I really like the performance of the shoe, but that tongue moves. And the Jordan 14 comes with a Phylon midsole with a Zoom Air unit on the forefoot as well as the heel. And speaking of this part of the shoe, you'll see this ventilation hole. Again, inspired by a car. That provides some breathability, some air. So for those with sweaty feet, thank God for these. And the Jordan 14 always had super nice traction on the rubber outsole. You'll see on the midfoot area, that's actually a TPU plate, so not carbon fiber. There was one OG colorway that did have carbon fiber shank plate. It was the white and varsity red colorway that came with the carbon fiber shank plate. This one is just a hardened TPU plate. And you'll see the pattern on the plate, again inspired by a sports car. I just really like the look of the outsole as well as the performance. And again, up at the top, you'll see 14 in Roman numerals. This shoe doesn't come with any extra laces. Honestly, the black laces work pretty much perfectly on the shoe. The only other acceptable color would be white, and I think actually that would look pretty nice, but black default laces works perfectly. The box of the shoe, regular Jordan box, nothing to it. Now moving on to size and comfort, I'm a size 9.5 true to size. I do have wide feet. For Jordan 14s, true to size is the way to go in my experience. I actually have bought Jordan 14s half size up, a little bit too big for me, especially if you're playing ball in them. The shoe does hold up pretty well performance-wise in 2023, so that's definitely a consideration. Length-wise for wide footers, going true to size is perfect, and the width of this shoe, I think it fits pretty well as well. Even though this arch area, you can see just from the shape of the shoe, it goes up pretty high. If you have flat and wide feet like I do, you don't really feel that, so no problems there, especially once you break it in. Super comfortable. And the Jordan 14s, in my opinion, are a very comfortable shoe. The padding inside is super well padded. The one complaint that I mentioned before as well is the tongue. It does move around quite a bit. Another tiny gripe I have is that this part, sometimes if the QC is not done very well, it does start to like peel off. So watch out for that. So as soon as it starts like peeling off, definitely try to glue that back on. But the weight of the shoe, I'm always surprised at just how light the Jordan 14s are. When you just look at the shoe, you consider it came out in the late 90s, you just feel like, oh, maybe there's a little bit of weight to the shoe, but in hand, just super light. And that brings the total sole score of the Jordan 14 black and white to 31 out of 40. Now in terms of colorway, the black and white colorway can't really go wrong. Super wearable, super easy on the eyes. It's a very standard and basic color. You cannot go wrong with such a simple colorway. In terms of materials, the suede is a tiny bit coarser than I would like it to be. I prefer that very smooth, soft type of suede. But the tech specs on the Jordan 4, I'm a big fan of. And in terms of comfort, I think the Jordan 4s are one of the more comfortable Jordans from 1 to 14. Definitely like top 3 or 4. So absolutely no complaints there. Ventilation is decent, the cushioning is decent with a Zoom Air unit on the heel as well as the forefoot. Phylon midsole, so super lightweight. Again, the only thing I would complain about, the tongue, sometimes it just goes like that. Now in terms of versatility, the Jordan 14s, still a very basketball, athletic looking shoe. It still looks pretty nice casually, but definitely doesn't lend itself as well to casual use as like the Jordan 1s, 3s, 4s, 5s. But the versatility of this colorway, nothing else needs to be said. Black and white. You cannot get more versatile than that. So silhouette, not the most versatile. Colorway, extremely versatile. Now I can't say that I'm like the biggest fan of the Jordan 14s in terms of how it looks. In terms of performance, I'm a fan, but just in terms of how it looks, I'm not like a Jordan 14 diehard fan. But it's always nice to see like a less often retro silhouettes to come back in 2023. So every time there's a Jordan 14 that's about to come back, I pay attention. I believe I've only reviewed one Jordan 14, the Laney's, and I do wish they'd bring back some OG colorways. And also, please bring back the Jordan 10s. What are we doing? What are we waiting for? Come on. And the Jordan 14 also has a bit of sentimental value. That was the first Jordan brand shoe that I could buy myself, that I could scrounge up enough money to buy. So anytime this shoe comes up, the Jordan 14s, I pay attention. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Sole Inclined. Let me know what you think of the Jordan 14 black and white. Like, subscribe, comment, all the good stuff. And remember, tomorrow may never come, so wear your shoes.